episode 434 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I will be talking about tonight's all-new episode of AEW Dynamite, featuring all the fallout from Forbidden Door, right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hey Wrestling Fanatics, it's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. Time to talk about AEW Dynamite on this Wednesday. I'm Lance Brock. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight to episode 434 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. And without any further ado, let's get into tonight's AEW Dynamite on TBS. And Dynamite tonight was live from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Commentators Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. And we start things off with the entrance of the Blackpool Combat Club. Jon Moxley is in action, taking on Tomohiro Ishii. And this one, pretty good match here. Always good when you have Ishii and the Blackpool Combat Club starts to get involved a little bit, and then Eddie Kingston comes down to kind of keep them in check a little bit, to keep them from interfering anymore. But is Jon Moxley getting the win? And we have a trios match. The AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy teaming with Keith Lee and El Hijo del Vikingo to take on, representing the Jericho Appreciation Society, we have 2.0, Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, and Cool Hand Angelo Parker, along with Daniel Garcia. And we saw an interview that took place earlier in the day. Tony Schiavone interviewing Orange Cassidy, and he's interrupted by 2.0, and they challenge him to the match that we see tonight, and they tell him to find two partners, and he just happens to see Keith Lee back there, and then he needs to find one more partner. And then we see in the background El Hijo del Vikingo, and he does the thumbs up to Orange Cassidy, which leads to this trios match. Not a bad match. I enjoyed this match here on Dynamite tonight, which sees Keith Lee pin Matt Menard to score the win for himself, OC, and Vikingo. And we hear from Jungle Boy Jack Perry explaining his actions from Forbidden Door, where he turned on his Jungle Hook tag team partner, Hook, and I don't think he actually officially said it tonight, but it does kind of look like they're going to maybe drop the Jungle Boy name and maybe just have him go by Jack Perry, because one thing he did say is during his entrance he cut off, but the song, is it Tarzan Boy, the name of it, the one he comes out to, and he cut that off, and he said that's the last time you're gonna hear it. And it does make sense if they're going to have him as a heel now, to have this popular song that the fans like chanting or singing along with. And I know Jericho's a heel now and they still do it with Judas, but I would say it's probably a better call to change up the character a little bit, because the whole thing with Tarzan Boy and everything is more of a babyface character, works better with a babyface anyway. And then we hear the music of Hook hit, and as usual, he few words, doesn't say nothing at all, just goes right after Jack Perry and chases him through the crowd. And then they cut to a camera in the back where Hook is chasing after Jack Perry, but he jumps right into the back seat of a car and it takes off. And in the back, I think I'm going back a little bit, but we see the Elite, the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page and Dark Order come in, still upset with Hangman Adam Page, kind of feel abandoned about him when Hangman recently got back together with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. So they challenge him, or them I should say, to a trios match tonight on Dynamite. And we had that match, the Dark Order, Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds taking on the Young Bucks and Hangman Adam Page. Good match, I thought, and I thought Hangman did a good job of acting like he still cared about the Dark Order. And like in the back, that segment, he tried to explain to him that the Elite needed him. And it is the Elite getting the win after the Young Bucks hit the BTE trigger on John Silver. And then Hangman hits the buckshot lariat and pins John Silver to get the victory for the Elite. And then after the match, Hangman is talking to John Silver, and Tony Schiavone mentions that it looks like he's apologizing to him. And then the Young Bucks come in there kind of check on him too. And then Evil Uno and Alex Reynolds kind of push him out of the way. And then Hangman's trying to apologize or maybe make amends to them as well. And then at this time, the Elite is attacked by the Blackpool Combat Club, and Dark Order just stands there and doesn't do anything. still not wanting to do anything, have anything to do with Hangman Adam Page as they leave. And then Eddie Kingston comes to the ring. And I think I forgot to mention this earlier, when Jon Moxley, after he defeated Ishii, Eddie Kingston was trying to convince him that he did that on his own without the BCC. And then when Jon Moxley left, with his shoulder, he bumped into Kingston on the floor as he was leaving. And while this attack was going on, after Eddie Kingston came out, the BCC, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Konosuke Takeshita were attacking Eddie Kingston, but Jon Moxley was the one who did not touch Kingston at all. And Hangman Adam Page was busted wide open. And get back to the Dark Order, while they were leaving, Hangman sold this perfectly, because he was laying there bloodied and he was looking up the ramp, maybe like he was hoping they might come and help him, but they just left. And then the beatdown continued. I thought this angle was done pretty well tonight. The whole thing with the Dark Order, I don't know if this is a heel turn for him. Kind of looks like it could be, with them not helping Page at all when he was attacked by the BCC. So I think this could end up being a heel turn for Dark Order, and maybe they'll have a feud with the Elite, but who knows? It might not be right away, because we find out that Jon Moxley, when he gets on the mic for I can't remember the date exactly. I know it's in July in Boston for AEW's debut in the TD Garden Arena. And it will be the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite in Blood and Guts. Of course, last year, Blood and Guts here in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena, which myself and former co-host Tony attended, and actually tomorrow is the 1 year anniversary of that Blood and Guts show. But we will see the third Blood and Guts between the BCC versus the Elite. And the reason I brought up last year's because the Blackpool Combat Club was involved, and they defeated the Jericho Appreciation Society, which was a great match. And on the AEW calendar for this year, or this month, I should say, of June, is the big swing, Claudio Castagnoli swinging Jericho on the top of the cage, which was a great moment. So definitely looking forward to this year's Blood and Guts. As I was saying, maybe after that is done, we could see a feud between the Dark Order and the Elite. And I really think that the Dark Order really needs a shot in the arm, I guess you could say, because there's been a few good moments for them where they've looked good with Hangman, but other than that, since the unfortunate passing of Brody Lee, they haven't really been quite what they were at one time. And next up, we have, but first I have to explain that a match we were originally supposed to see tonight in the Women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Ruby Soho and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, that match ended up not taking place because Dr. Britt Baker unfortunately missed Dynamite due to illness. And they brought up how they had mentioned on AEW television, of course, how she is in a relationship with Adam Cole. So probably caught it from him, who had to miss Forbidden Door on Sunday. And it is announced that we will see that match, Dr. Britt Baker taking on Ruby Soho next week on Dynamite. And Ruby Soho is still in action tonight. She takes on Canadian wrestler Alexia Nicole, who I have seen quite a bit on the indies. And I know she's made a couple of appearances for Clash Wrestling here in Michigan. And Ruby Soho getting the win. And then after the match, she cuts a promo on Dr. Britt Baker. And our main event on this week's Dynamite is the Tornado Tag. Sting and Darby Allin taking on the Painmaker, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Really good match, I thought. I enjoyed this main event tonight. And Sting and Chris Jericho, I thought they looked pretty well. I thought they worked pretty well together. And Sting pinning Chris Jericho to get the win. And that was tonight's Dynamite. Very good episode. I thought it had some really good wrestling coming off of Forbidden Door this past Sunday night. And definitely looking forward to this Saturday for the third episode of Collision. But first, before that Saturday afternoon is WWE Money in the Bank Premium Live event. I mentioned this morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans that Saturday, as of right now, my plan is to, instead of doing separate podcasts, after Collision, I will do an episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, probably go live, but I will do one podcast where I will recap both Money in the Bank and this Saturday's episode of Collision. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully everything will work out as planned. And to talk a little news before I wrap up this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, a 4-way match for the Impact World Tag Team Championships has been added to the Slammiversary pay-per-view, and it will be the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, will be defending against Moose and Brian Myers, Rich Swann and Sami Callihan, and Subculture, Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster. That sounds like that'll be a pretty entertaining match at Slammiversary this year. And that is about it for news tonight, right here on 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you once again for tuning in, everyone. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, anything, you can leave your feedback on tonight's Dynamite in the comment section, whether you're listening right here on Spreaker or whichever podcast app or website you're listening to on. If they have a comment section, leave your thoughts on Dynamite tonight, and also you can go ahead and leave your predictions for this Saturday's Money in the Bank PLE. Also, if you have a business or any kind of product you want to advertise here on 360 Wrestling Podcast, you can just email me at 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll try to do a good ad for you here. Hopefully won't mess up too badly. Hope we can work something out. Email 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Also subscribe to the 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channels and the social media, Instagram, 360 Wrestling Podcast, Facebook, Twitter at 360 Wrestling Pod. And I hope to have more new episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic coming at you. But tomorrow we'll be here for the Thursday episode of GMWF. But until then, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.